And some of that looks pretty good. Like that, like tuna poke bowl, that's like one of the things is one of my go-to meals on the weeks, not gonna lie.
I saw the Mediterranean spinach flatbread. I was like, what was that? That looked pretty good.
Looking at that ingredients. Let's go give her a follow on TikTok and you have to check it out.
Absolutely. So let's bring on our next guest, right?
Yeah, we've got Ryan Schreiber. You may know him as the VP of Industry and Development at Metaphora. You also might know him as one of Michael Vincent's biggest hecklers because he's a Sparty fan. But we know him as one of our favorite guests here. Ryan, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm also one of Kevin Hill's biggest hecklers. My computer's not turning on. I actually made my bed in my hotel room this morning so that Kevin Hill wouldn't give me, any grief about it. And then, of course, my computer doesn't turn on. So that it just goes to show you, don't try in life. Just kind of keep toasting and everything will, then everything will happen the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, why try now, Ryan? Come on.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, the Buckeyes get it.
The Buckeyes get it. They say that no good deed goes unpunished. Well, no made bed goes unseen on TV, except for this one in this case, right?
Exactly right. That's right, exactly right. Hey, let's talk about let's talk about the topic at hand, man, of falling rates and what's going on with the drivers.
Yeah, it's like the biggest topic of conversation. Speaking of our buddy Kevin, we did put that coffee down a couple weeks ago. We talked, at length about the topic, and it's certainly like the thing that I get asked most about right now is like, what do we think is going to happen with rates? Are they going to continue to go down? Do we think they're going to go back up? And what we're hearing from other folks. So, yeah, it's definitely top of mind for everybody.
I think it's top of conversation right now on social as well. There's a ton of conversation about it on LinkedIn. There's a ton of conversation on it about Twitter. But something that I think is lacking a little bit of nuance in that social discussion is we don't really see a lot of driver perspective on that social media discussion. There's a lot of brokerage discussion. There's a lot of high-level CEO exec discussion. Why do we think that we're not seeing a lot of driver conversation or driver perspective about this, specifically on social media right now?
I think it's where it's the social media element of it is a good question. I think it's where you look. I follow a couple of, Facebook accounts or groups or whatever they're called, because I'm older than you, Kaylee. But, and on there, certainly, like a lot of the owner operators are, I don't know if the kids nowadays still do that, but, and certainly there's a lot of talk from the owner operator community. The carrier community that is in general, obviously keeping a look at it. The mega carriers are maybe in a different position, but there's a lot of chatter in some of these other areas where the owner operators are, and it's a lot of the same. When rates drop, the owner operator community is talking about, hold the line and let's band together and keep rates high. And it's certainly an interesting conversation. I think it just maybe depends on where you look. Kaylee, maybe let's get you signed up for some Facebook, huh?
There you go.
I see a lot of my grandma on Facebook, and then I like to talk to her every now and again, but I don't need to see her on Facebook all the time, so I think I'll pass.
Vince, would I be in your top 8, buddy, if we were in MySpace or what?
Oh, absolutely, bro. You're number one, man. It's all in good fun, man. It's all in good fun.
Tom is my number 1, but you could be my number 2. How about that?
I'll take it. I'll take number 2, dude. I try harder. I'm number 2. We can sit here and discuss which way and try and prognosticate and figure out which way rates are going to go, but what are some of the things that you should be doing right now to avoid? They could go up, they could go down. More likely to go down, I would imagine. But what are things that you should be doing?
Yeah, the reality is when you dig deeper on the business, whether you're a trucking company or a broker, there's a lot of things that you can or should do kind of no matter what the market is doing. Yeah, listen, like you need to think about the book of business that you have as a bit of a portfolio, of a stock portfolio, right? You have, if you're investing, you have equities, which are going to be more volatile. You have bonds or mutual funds or whatever, which may be more stable. And like you have a mix of those things to meet your financial goals and outcomes. Now, when you're a trucking company or you're a broker, you need to think a lot more like that. But those are harder to turn. The ship is a little bit harder to turn, in the immediate moment. if you think, when rates are inflating or deflating. Certainly like your take decisions, meaning like which loads you actually decide to do, can be influenced by that. But your commitments, are certainly going to be there. But a lot of what you need to be doing as a broker or carrier remains the same, regardless of what's going on in the broader market. And what you really want to try and do is what you really need to work toward, is finding the commitments and the matches, whether that's from a carrier to a broker or shipper, or whether that's a broker to a carrier, or a shipper, that are more powerful, that solve more problems, and that really create additional value beyond just sort of the pickup and delivery. And that doesn't necessarily mean like blanket wrapped freight or what have you, but that all of you have created a business match that really that is really more powerful than just that rate per mile.
I love that. It's adding value where you can, not necessarily adding value on that dollar sign amount, right? And sometimes, I know, Ryan, when we were really, really hot in the peak of things last summer, we talked about how just because you're in this great market doesn't mean that you can afford to burn bridges or shove your relationships or, be kind of a lazy person in the industry, I would almost call it, right? Just because you're getting the freight and the freight is hot doesn't mean it's always going to be here to stay. Can you talk about taking those relationships maybe that you nurtured in the good times and now how that can help carry people if we're going into the not so good times?
Yeah, we use the term relationship in this business kind of historic or broadly across the industry to mean the same thing as like matching a load. And that's not a relationship, right? A relationship is working together to grow together. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of creating relationships that are more powerful, creating matches that are more powerful than just that underlying rate per mile that you pay. And so, like, as an example, not all revenue is created equal. So here's a really good example of that. I mean, right, a driver, carrier, broker, this is going to be really easy for anybody to wrap their head around. If you got a truck sitting somewhere in a facility getting unloaded, and there's a load that picks up in that facility that pays $3,500 going to LA, and there's a load that's 300 miles away that also pays $3,500 and is also going to LA. Those two loads are not the same from a profit perspective, right? So creating matches that solve those types of problems and provide that kind of network fit is one example, but not all revenue is created equal. And so really, if in the good times you actually focused on the relationship, which means growing together, identifying the right network fits for your partners, whether those partners are brokers, carriers, or shippers, if you have focused on those things, you're going to be in a better position today. Obviously, listen, everybody wants to maximize revenue. You're not going to be able to, as rates deflate, you're not going to be able to hold on to your old rates no matter what. But it's definitely a question of how the market is moving, how quickly it moves away from you, and whether or not your customers or your partners are kind of like willing to collaborate on the best outcomes for everybody, or they see it as a zero-sum game. And for me to win, you have to lose.
Got it. So don't use an open deck gooseneck to move reefer freight, right? That's what you're saying?
I actually have a funny story about that I'll tell some other time. Come back to that.
Sounds good. We'll come back to that when we got more time. Let's talk about your freight portfolio, right? You got to treat that like your investment portfolio as well, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, when you look at how different businesses win, right, and how they grow, it's all about the freight mix. And, we're going to see a lot of companies who posted some really good numbers over the last couple of years who aren't going to post a good quarter this year, right? And I don't necessarily mean post as in public company, but any of these companies that really ran hot and heavy exclusively on the spot market, and really relied on those high rates, but didn't see load volumes grow, didn't see some of these other kind of metrics grow to tell them that they grew as a company, they're not. No one number tells you the story. So, when you look at a story like Coyote or or Molo, and they really grew as contract heavy brokers. And they certainly, like, there's a lot behind the scenes there about how they kind of got spot market freight, but their strategy was contract heavy and fill in with spot. And there certainly have been, TQL and NTG and Echo have grown to be mega brokers, sort of starting with the spot market and working backwards to contract. So it's about setting an intentional philosophy and understanding kind of what some of those trade-offs are going to be, how you need to appropriately staff it, and then also, how you need to kind of fill the gaps and find the right carrier partners if you're a broker, or the right shippers if you're a carrier, to help you execute against that strategy and de-risk the overall sort of book of business that you have, regardless of what's going to happen in the broader market. It's about a mix. It's not one or the other.
I love that. Diversification is the name of the game.
Absolutely.
Ryan, thank you for joining us today. Great to have you as always. We'll catch up with you again, I'm sure, in the next few weeks.
Yeah, can't wait. See you guys soon.
Thanks. Peace, Ryan. Excellent stuff.
Absolutely.
Always good talking with Ryan.
Oh, yeah. We're going to take another quick break right now. We'll be back with our next carrier update from Donnie Gilbert and Tony Mulvey coming up in just a few minutes.